Hi you guys, welcome back. I'm talking about my favorite singer-songwriter, producer, and musician of all time, Angela Winbush. And I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to title this series, The Real Thing. Yeah, The Real Thing. The Angela Winbush story or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but it's definitely going to be called The Real Thing. So as I said in the previous video, I'm gravitating towards Angela just based off this CD alone. This is my first CD that I've ever purchased. And so now I'm learning that she's produced for Ron Isley. I'm learning that she's produced some things for Stephanie Mills. I'm learning that there's the song out by Stephanie Mills that I love. I learned to respect the power of love. That song was a song that was definitely played in my household, especially in 1987. There were 3 songs I know for sure that I would hear in my mother's car during that time. In 1987, Prince, I think it was Prince Adore or Prince's If I Were Your Girlfriend or something like that. The Isley Brothers, Believe It or Not, Smooth Sailing, and Stephanie Mills, I Feel Good All Over. I would hear those songs in my mother's car whenever I was riding with her. And so I'm gravitating towards Angela Winbush and I'm learning everything about her. I'm digging her style. I'm loving her music. I'm loving how she produces. I'm loving the fact that she is a lady in the business and she's really and truly just, you know, she is just as good as the guys, right? And I'm always cheering for the underdog. And if you watch the En Vogue series, then you'll know Maxine Jones of En Vogue. I'm cheering for her because I think she's the underdog in the group. And so what I want to do at this moment in time is I just want to give a little bit of background about Angela Winbush as far as what I kind of know from following her. And I was a tad bit disappointed in the unsung that was documented on her by, I believe, VH1 in 2010. I think it was 2010. I recall at the time I was following Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson is a musical director, was, I should say, I think he was, I don't think he's no longer, the musical director for Angela Winbush after her breakup from Ron Isley. And so I'm going to assume maybe anywhere between 2004 to maybe, I don't know, I haven't seen Joe Johnson on the stage with her in a while because he would always be on the stage with her performing in her band. And I do believe he was the musical director. Now, maybe I'll talk a little bit more about Joe Johnson. But Joe Johnson is a saxophonist, and this is by far a great record. I didn't know that, well, I don't want to talk about Joe too much, but let's just say I made a comment when the unsung was finished. When, you know, they aired it and it was over, I immediately went to social media at the time and I got on his page. And I was like, I was so disappointed in Unsung because they did not do Angela Winbush any justice as far as documenting her career. You know, and I made mention to that, and I think his response was something like, well, yeah, they did talk about that, like after it was done, they did talk about that, but he was like, well, you really can't, it was so much music that, you know, you really couldn't, I guess, tell it all. But I'll talk more about that unsung later on. But so I was like, I was a little bit disappointed in it. And so what I want to do is, again, I want to talk about Angela Winbush, but pretty much from a fan perspective. And what I believe probably could have been one of the, how can I say it? She could probably have been one of the most influential singers and producers and songwriters of our time. And I'm really and truly not, you know, just, you know, putting her up there because I'm such a fan of hers. But she really and truly is like, as Tamar Braxton would say, the bomb.com. So let's talk a little bit because I don't want to go over the 15 minutes in this segment. So what do I know about Angela Winbush For the most part, of course, as you know, she's from St. Louis, Missouri. She attended Howard University. I wanted to go to Howard University. I did. And she started out an architect. Started out wanted to be an architect. And then she transitioned over to music. And I'm not quite sure how that happened. I'm not quite sure. I don't know if it was her affiliation with just being in the music halls at the time, you know, in some of the rehearsal rooms, and Richard Smallwood overheard her singing and maybe asked her to be a part of the group. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but somehow or another, Angela Winbush is definitely, you know, still somewhere around music in her Howard University years, even though I think I know what it is now. I think I know. I think she maybe was like a session singer or something, and that's how she paid for school or something like that, even though I've heard her say, because I've been to several Angela Winbush's concerts or shows, and I do recall her saying that her grandmother also paid her way through school, Howard University, but I think also to earn extra money. I think that's what Angela Winbush did. She's somewhere around music, even though she is, you know, majoring in architect. Now, during that time, if I'm not mistaken, she is doing session work for Van McCoy. I think this is the guy who did the song called The Hustle. Al Jarreau, Red Fox. She's opening up for... and of course, her connection with Richard Smallwood. She is one of the original Smallwood Singers. I think the choir was called the Union Temple Adult Choir or something like that, or Children's Choir. And from my understanding, and just kind of fast forwarding a little bit, my understanding is that Richard Smallwood said he overhears Angela Winbush singing in one of the rehearsal halls, and he goes in, sees who is her, and he's pretty much, you know, taken aback by her, you know, vocal abilities and her playing the piano and blah blah blah, and that's how she becomes affiliated with Richard Smallwood, the legendary gospel singer and songwriter Richard Smallwood. And from that moment on, she's a part of the Richard Smallwood Singers. And then, depending on what articles you read, it says that it was Angela Winbush, Tawatha A.G., who would eventually join Mtume, and a lady by the name of Elect Ricks, forgive me if I'm pronouncing her name wrong, they formed a group called, some publication says Iced Tea, and other publication says Hot Tea. But either way, they formed this trio, and as I said, they're opening up for all of these artists who will come through Howard University. Now, fast forwarding from there, Angela, I believe, now depending on what articles you have read, or from whoever is doing the interview at the time. Now, I believe that Angela, well, take that back, because I'm about to talk about her with Stevie Wonder. Now, let me go back to Tawatha A.G. and her relationship with Mtume, James Mtume. Now, I'm not quite sure who the producer was. I think it was James Mtume. I'm not sure. Leave comments in the leave comments, you know, if you know something besides this. But I think there was some producer who was trying to get them a recording contract, and it didn't work. I think it was James Mtume. I think so. But anyhow, that didn't work out for them. And depending on, as I said, who you're talking, who's talking at the time, either Angela Winbush is about to graduate Howard, like maybe that last week or that last month of school, her final year at Howard, like when I said final year, like her final days at Howard University, depending on who is talking, it's more like Angela Winbush gets the call. Like literally, she gets a phone call. And I think matter of fact, some reports saying that he left a message for her. Like she didn't get the initial phone call, like, you know, this is Stevie and she's picking up. I think it was a message left for her. And she, of course, calls back, blah, blah, blah. It's actually really Stevie Wonder. And he flies her out to California. And some report says that, and that Angela pretty much, you know, she's already had her things packed up, blah, blah, blah. And she's about to go to California. And she sends for her things, you know. So she never returned back to, I guess, Washington, D.C. Now, there are other reports where I've read that Angela Winbush was a teacher, a music teacher for a while. How long she was a music teacher, I'm not quite sure. Briefly, maybe she was a music teacher. I believe the school is Woodson High School. She was a music teacher. Don't hold me to that, the name of the school. But I do believe that if I recall correctly, she was a teacher. And so I'm kind of like not sure how that worked out. Like, did she, you know, did she graduate college and then become a music teacher? And in between her being a music teacher, she was still doing session work. I'm not sure, but she does eventually make it to California to be a part of Stevie Wonder's background group, Wonderlove. Now, I don't want to talk too much about Angela Winbush's Howard years, but I think maybe she is at Howard. I'm not quite sure. I think Richard Smallwood probably had already graduated Howard, and somehow or another they still crossed paths, being that they was in the music, you know, affiliated with music, and that's how they crossed paths, by him showing up. Or maybe they was at Howard at the same time together. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, I do believe that Angela Winbush is in California probably in 1976 or 1977. Now, when she goes over to join Wonderlove, this is me making the assumption. I'm thinking she's probably auditioning for Denise Williams' position. I think so, because Denise Williams was also a member of Wonderlove as well. She has released a CD in 1976. I think it's called This Is Niecy, and it has the song on there called Free. So I think that's what Angela was doing, was replacing Denise Williams. Don't hold me to that. Hopefully one day I'll be able to ask her this question, because none of these things are ever mentioned, you know, like in interviews. No one asks these kinds of questions. But I think she was replacing Denise Williams. Denise Williams for sure is a former background vocalist. Denise Williams for sure released a record in 1976. Angela Winbush is definitely a member of Wonderlove in 1977. Okay? And so she goes out there. Now, from my understanding, listening to Angela Winbush in interviews throughout the years, from my understanding, she was always working, like as far as writing and producing songs and demoing songs, you know, for her, hopefully one day to get into the music industry. And from my understanding, I don't think she was, what's the word that I want to use? Let's just put it this way. I don't think she was trying to, you know, be all in people's face, like, you know, hey, I'm a singer, listen to my demo type of thing. In some publications, she's pretty much basically said, well, you know, I was ready. If anybody ever wanted to hear my material or anything like that, I was just pretty much ready, you know, and I was prepared for that. But she wasn't pushy, I guess you could say. So she's over at Wonderlove for sure in 1977. And of course, she meets Rene Moore over in California. Both of them are pursuing different interests musically. But Rene Moore is affiliated with I guess some well-known people in the music business as well. You know, I guess he has a good music pedigree, if you will. I do believe I read some reports where his half brother or maybe step brother was a part of the Brother Johnsons, who had a song called "I'll Be Good to You." And I think they also had a song called "Strawberry Letter 23." I believe Tevin Campbell covered that song maybe for his first release. Don't hold me to the Tevin Campbell year. Could have been 1991, 1992, something like that. But anyway, so Angela Winbush is affiliated with Rene Moore at this time. I think this is a good place to stop because I don't want to, like I said, I want to keep these videos at the 15-minute mark, and I don't want to be long with these videos. So this is a good place to stop and talk about her years with Rene Moore.